Dzień dobry, dzieci! It is the Flurza Experience, a show about Gwent, but so much more. I'm joined by I forgot to come up with a new one for you.
Ooh.
Let's see. The have I called you the Cannoli Commander yet?
Yes.
I have called you the Cannoli Commander.
Damn, you're running out of them.
I am
No. Oh no.
the Emperor of Eclairs.
Oh.
Is that a good one?
Wow, eclairs. Oh, now I feel like eating an eclair.
Yeah, well, that would be you, Mr. Pavel Burza. It's nice to have you here, buddy.
Thank you. Hello, Flake. How you doing, man?
I'm getting better. I was sick, under the weather for the past little while,
Yeah.
and haven't left the house in approximately 8 days, other than to check the mail downstairs, of which
Ugh.
no mail has arrived. So I feel isolated and lonely.
No singles, no cars, nothing, no.
Well, I did purchase. Okay, so here's the deal. Because I'm weak inside, I saw a deal. There's like very few Star Wars cards that I'm missing, and my objective now is not necessarily to just because they've been out of print for like 20 years. But I've just tried to collect to complete sets. So there was one card that I was missing that was pretty valuable. And not only is it pretty valuable, but it's very playable too. So I was like, shoot, I really want this card because if I do want to just shuffle up and make a deck, it's a very playable and strong card that I want to have. So it's, it's pretty expensive. It's like, $40 for the card or whatever. And I'm like, I couldn't justify just jamming $40 for a card that was going to go in a binder that, but somebody was selling on like the Facebook marketplace for Star Wars cards, selling that card plus a whole bunch of others. And I said, hey, how much are you selling this card for? And he said, $20. I said, oh, that's like half the price of what I was expecting to pay. So I was like, great. And I'm like, hey, out of curiosity, how much you letting the rest of the stuff go for? And he just did some calculations. He's like, well, altogether it's worth about $250. I said, would you take $200 for everything? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I was like, sold. So that kind of
nice.
So I'm waiting for those singles are on the way.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, amazing. It's just it was one card. It's like you go to the grocery store for milk and you show up coming home with like 20 grocery bags full. I'm like,
yeah.
But
that's how it is with buying cards. I have the same thing. I'm looking for, let's say, 1 or 2 copies of a card, right? And instead of that, I'm like, ooh, I'll get one of these. And what about this deck? Maybe I need to buy this. Oh, I need this for my sideboard. Oh, maybe this, that. And it starts kind of piling up. But also makes more sense because you pay for shipping ones, right?
Well,
only ones for shipping, right?
That's precisely it. You get caught into that whole, like I'll find something on eBay and I'm like, that's a good deal for this card or whatever. So I'll you'll place the bid and then you're like, let's check what else is in this guy's store because I'm combining the shipping anyways. What am I, a sucker? No, I'm gonna do this the right way. I'm gonna get all my ducks in one basket. And
I do the same.
So
I do the same. I think it's everybody. I think it's almost everyone who buys singles. Like no one just goes out and buys like one card, unless you're buying 4 copies if you're playing Magic of a card. And maybe, but still you're thinking like 4 cards. I still got to pay for shipping. Maybe I'll add something more. It also depends on how expensive they are because there are some cards that will throw you into, I don't know, a couple hundred even. So after that, you probably don't want to add anything more, but. I mean, good shipping costs once, and you have all the cards you need.
That's
Perfect.
The attractive part. That's the trap that I fall into. And then what else? Oh, I just randomly was like, it's a new Flesh and Blood ban and restricted announcement came out. So so I was kind of like, okay, I know kind of where I want to pivot in terms of what I want to play next, but I was missing some pieces. So I found somebody locally who was selling one card that I needed. And then I was like, and then again, what else you got? So that turned into another like $150 investment because the dude's prices were excellent, like, and you have to capitalize on that kind of thing where otherwise you never know because in this, it's like a marketplace, right? Like it's like a stock market. So if something is valued across, the common logic is a card is worth $100, you're like, fine, like that's what you're expecting to pay. If you see it somewhere for 70, you're like, okay, like you have to pounce on that because it might go up, it might go down, but if it goes down, you're still ahead of the game to a degree. But Anyway.
Yeah, we should totally do an episode about physical versus, digital. Like
Oh,
talk about card games. Like I
oh,
feel like that's
definitely.
a strong topic that we could discuss because there's a lot of things that go into the physical, but there's a lot of things that physical card games can't do, which the digital card games can do, especially when it comes to balance and stuff like that.
Well,
Yeah,
balance for sure is one of the
yeah.
issues, but I would love to do it. We can do that next week for sure.
Deal. Deal. We have a topic for next week. Okay. So going back on track, let's stick to the script. Yeah, right.
Sure.
This is episode 14. 14.
Yeah,
What's
14.
our number 14 fun fact of the day?
Well, the number 14, in terms of just from the sporting world, which has gripped me all my life, number 14 was worn by Pete Rose. Pete Rose is the Major League Baseball hit king. The most career hits ever
Whoa.
is Pete Rose at 4,256.
What?
Now, if you hit 3,000 hits in your career, it is a league-wide celebrated milestone. It is like instant Hall of Fame credentials. So only the very select few in the world have ever hit 3,000 hits. Pete Rose has hit 4,256. Now the fun thing about this is that Pete Rose is also lifetime banned from Major League Baseball, meaning he can never be in the Hall of Fame, he can never attend a game, he can never do anything. He is banned from Major League Baseball for life because
Oh, wow.
as after like in late in his career as he was managing teams, he was betting on those games and
Oh,
then
God,
lying
no.
about it for decades and decades and decades.
Isn't it somewhere in their contract that they cannot do
No,
that,
they
right?
can't. Obviously,
No?
yeah.
They can? Okay.
No, they
Wow.
cannot. They cannot. They are
Oh,
not
they
allowed.
cannot. Okay.
Yeah, no, they can't bet on games. So Pete Rose was caught betting on baseball, lied about it, and then was after it was proven that he did, like without a shadow of a doubt, he was banned from baseball and continued to deny it well into his like late 60s, early 70s. I think he's like 80 now, 81. And when I think the way that it used to work for Hall of Fame inductions, it's that you're on like a ballot for X amount of years or either way, long story short, his eligibility, I think for it was like going to expire. And even though his name wasn't on the ballot because he was banned, I think the rules of his eligibility still stand, whereas like only X amount of years. Anyways, long story short,
Interesting.
he eventually wrote a book admitting to it and
Okay.
being like, "Woe is me! This was my own personal hell, lying about
Made a
this
lot
for
of
so
money
many."
on the book.
Yeah, of course
A
you
good
made a lot
move.
of money on the book. You made a lot of money on the book. Not to mention he was constantly like he begged and pleaded to the current commissioner to be like, can you please unban me? Like, I've learned my lesson. I've come clean. And then the commissioner's like, dude, you're consistently endorsed by gambling websites. You go to like Vegas and gambling establishments to promote your book. Meanwhile, you're talking about how you're remorseful for gambling on baseball, but you're like, it's like, no, get out of here. Like it's just fascinating that in the grand scheme of baseball, this is what I don't mean to get on a tangent here, but in the grand scheme of baseball, some of the greatest players, head and shoulders, the record holders for home runs, for hits. These are players that are never going to be in the Major League Hall of Fame because of stuff they've done outside of their career, so to speak, like outside of baseball as a skill set. Barry Bonds never going to be in there. He has the most career home runs. Pete Rose never going to be in there, most career hits. Roger Clemens never going to be in there, most like career Cy Young awards.
Ouch.
Like it's ridiculous, but it's just hilarious that baseball is such a like this mystical sport of history and respect
Well,
and
it
tradition, and then the best players to ever play it are not in the Hall of Fame because of dumb stuff that they've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes for every sport. If you're too dominant, sometimes something has to always be behind it. I kind of feel, or either it's a personality thing, or I don't know. We get the same thing in cycling. Like we get like the legends are kind of. I mean, you don't have to like look far. You have Armstrong, who has been the biggest like doping scandal in it, and yeah, like overuse of drugs and kind of stuff like that is kind of the worst. It kind of brings the whole sport down. But yeah, we still are enthusiasts of the sport, right?
Oh, well,
You love baseball, I love cycling, so we still watch it and we still support it. Maybe we don't, we kind of don't see everything through like, as it being awesome and great, but we see the flaws in the competitors or athletes or whatever you call them.
you want to win, and that's the part of it, right?
Yeah,
Which leads into this week's wonderful topic.
exactly. So we're going to be talking about winning and losing in card games and why we keep on coming back for more and
It's
more.
it's a naughty little drug that we all love to get hit. It's fascinating in that regard. But before we get to that, our weekly Dagon rumor report, please,
Exactly.
Mr.
The
Burza.
famous Dagon rumor report. Dagon has been spotted at 983shop.com. Yay! With his brand new amazing Dagon rumor reporter shirt and coffee mug. He's sporting everything. I hope somebody photoshops this together. I think he was drinking a Fagacino, beautiful, and talking about how he's never coming back. Never ever, because he wants to chill and doesn't want to come back. He also used the code Flurza5 for $5 off, as you should if you go to 93shop.com and
Yeah,
get that merch.
yeah, he is well retired, nestled deeply within the condo buildings of Del Boca Vista, Florida. He is having a great
Aw.
time. Yep, he's got the Hawaiian shirt on. He's running for condo president. He's doing the whole thing, baby. He's got socks on with flip flops. He's doing the whole retiree,
Yeah.
the whole gimmick. He's got
I ain't coming back.
damn right. No, he's never. It's never too hot. It's always too cold for air conditioning, despite it being, 35 in Celsius. It's never. He's got a sweater on at all times. He is done. He is ready to go. He's got Golden Girls reruns on the TV. He isn't going nowhere. He is staying put, and that is not. He's never coming back to Gwent. The
Oh, well. I wish him a very good retirement.
Same here,
I
man.
think he
Let the guy
deserved it.
rest. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like I said a million times, if you guys do bring him back, I hope he sucks. I hope he's the worst freaking card ever. I hope that it's just one of those things where everybody clamoring for Dagon and he's back and then he sucks and people will be like, "Oh, so it was never about Dagon. It was about having a nice new powerful card." I get it. No, I mean that would just be the ultimate justice. And then it's just he's so bad.
I mean, if he made a comeback, he better be good. Because if
Yeah.
he comes back and he's not good, then community would pretty much eat us alive. Like they
Yeah.
would eat us alive.
Yeah, they feast on us pretty regularly. It's
Yeah.
all good. All right, the Wayback Machine. Nothing really happened. I did pretty far back. The only thing that I can find that was of relevance was like there was a developer stream. I think that occurred where there were some UI changes and a few things along those matters. There was like a big patch that happened one of the years. There's nothing really like over the top unless there's something you can think of. But I mean, I was digging through like the news. The
To
news
be honest,
vault.
probably no, because as we're recording this, we're nearing the May weekend in Poland. Because I think the 1st and the 3rd of May are bank holidays in the country. So normally it's very chill week before, and then it kind of ramps up after it. And yeah, I mean, pretty much nothing probably happened. Same goes as to what, like when we come back from the May weekend, which is on Wednesday next week. We'll be ramping everything up for the next update, which is coming soon, May 10th.
May 10th. There you go. Well, there
Yep.
it is. Literally, I don't say nothing happened, but I mean, in terms of ground shaking news, it was relatively
It was
quiet.
fairly quiet.
All right. So, winning and losing, Mr. Pablo Berja, and this is a
Oh.
topic that I think is worth digging into. I know that I've had this conversation with many people over a long and less than illustrious career on Twitch, whereas people typically are it's a school of thought that you can subscribe to one end or another. Is it all about winning or is it all about having fun? And this is kind of a curious topic because a lot of people only have fun if they're winning, whereas others can. And I've had this debate with very many people where there have been very fiery discussions surrounding the fact that, you cannot have fun if you lose. And I I am strongly in disagreement. Now, from a grand perspective, a very broad stroke, obviously this is a very subjective thing because you might only enjoy an experience if you have a successful outcome at the end of it. I, on the other hand, am not like that. I not that I don't care about winning or losing. However, I can have positive experiences in losing scenarios, and that I
You're
don't
not
know.
losing if you're learning.
Well, yeah, I mean, like that whole mantra of I'm not losing if I'm learning. I mean, that is more meant to say that there's always something to be had out of every experience. If you are learning something from a loss, then it's not like you're coming away empty-handed. You're walking away from that experience with more than you walked in with. So in that
Mhm.
regard, the EV of that experience, the expected value is positive. You're getting something out of it for the time that you put in. Though you're not getting a W, you're not getting progress or an increase in your MMR, as it were. Learning something out of a matchup like, oh, I shouldn't have passed here, or I should have saved my lock for this card versus this card, or this was a trap and I shouldn't have used my removal on it. Those are positive experiences that help you to, um, you know, at the very least, digest losses better. But at the same time, this topic today is more so the fact that why does winning and losing matter to the casual player, and what brings people coming back? Because you said that this conversation for yourself, Pavel, spawned because you're on a nasty losing streak, but you still log in and you still queue up for more.
Yeah, I kind of do. I feel like I'm currently still in rank 2, but I'm not playing as much as I used to due to like a lot of stuff going on, personal life plus work. But whenever I get, some time, I fire up Gwent and I'm still like playing on ladder. And I kind of feel that one thing is to discuss how Gwent's laddering system is, that you need to actually get those 5 Ws in order to complete the whole thing and to progress to rank 1. That's kind of more demanding, let's say, especially the higher you go. And I feel like I always come back, but I normally wouldn't get as triggered as I did previously when it comes to when I'm actually losing. Because I feel like there are kind of two factors that play into this. One of them is I'm normally playing probably while I am focusing on something else. And if I don't direct my full attention to the thing that I'm doing, I'm kind of like making mistakes. And then I'm not really following the plays, let's say. But I feel like if I'm fully focused, I get those like 3 to 4 wins. I'm almost there, and then I fall back. But still, I'm like, okay, let's go on. And I don't know where it comes from. Like I've always tried to kind of define this. I have the same thing with going to like FNMs or any type of events in my local game store. Like I know I'm not gonna come out as the top dog because I know the guys that come there are go every week religiously. They play Magic Online. They go to like all the big events like the like the big tournaments that are organized here. Maybe not as big as the ones that you maybe attend for Flesh and Blood, but still like pretty big when it comes to the Polish or even like the whole Polish scene here. Anyway, so I know that I'm not gonna be like winning a whole lot. Although I've noticed this pattern that I've been there like once and I lost like 4-0. I went there the second times. I won once, so it was 1-3. And then it was like 2-2. And then it was, and it starts getting better and better with experience. And I feel like what draws us back in kind of is the fact that, when we're actually making progress and we're actually doing a lot better, we're like, okay, let's try one more time. And then you try that one more time and then you fall back. And then you're like, but you're very, very persistent as a card game player. And I think like you should be persistent and you should be trying to come back because like you're always learning something new, right? You might be going against a deck that, like we talked about net decking last time. So there has been this heated discussion amongst the community, like, oh, this is wrong. Like, if you're a net decker, you're like, you don't know what you're doing and you suck, but people want to win. So they net deck, right? They net deck the best decks, especially when you see it after any big Gwent tournament. They go in, they net deck, they play the best deck on ladder, and they try to win. And this sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, depending on what's happening in the meta. But I feel like everybody's like trying always to get the W, and I feel like there's less and less people trying to do it for fun. Maybe they do it for fun in Gwent, but I feel like the fun decks and the kind of everything opens up when you get to pro rank. But before pro rank, people are just grinding just to get there, right?
Right. Well, like it's just a matter of what you value and where your joys are. Can you find joy in the process versus the outcome? And that's a tough thing, because a lot of people want results and they don't get that dopamine hit of that success, those bells ringing, and like the payout. That only occurs if there's a positive outcome, when you see that you've won the two matches, when you see those, like, trust me, there's nothing more satisfying when I'm grinding and you get that win and suddenly you see that MMR tick up and it's just like beep 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 beep, and the numbers are in the yellow and you're increasing your MMR and you're pushing that ceiling. Like, that is incredibly satisfying. It's definitely, but it's a fragile feeling, because you know that one loss, you're losing that, and that's not the same feeling, and then you have to work towards getting back to that. It's like the one thing that I can definitely equate this to, and I'm sure for those who can relate, you know exactly what I'm talking about, is that I'll spend all kinds of freaking money over the course of a summer to go golfing, and it's 80% a tragedy, but it's 20% triumph, and you're there, and like, legitimately, I adore golf. Golf to me is nearly an unhealthy obsession, and the only reason why I don't play 7 days a week is because it's expensive and I can't afford it. So I play, once every 2 weeks or so, and I'll go out there. But am I an excellent golfer? Am I like, no, but to me, I'm out there because I'm chasing those great moments. I'm chasing those highs of, oh, I rolled this putt in for a birdie. Like, that's amazing. Like, that is, for any golfer, is an incredible feeling. It's incredible for me as an amateur, and it's or like a casual, and it's incredible for pros who roll in birdies, because those are great results. The difference is that they're rolling in 8 birdies a round, and I'm rolling in maybe 1 or 2. Like, that's the difference. And in between, I'm double bogeying every other hole, right? So to me, like, the joy and why we come back is because we're chasing those highs, and you remember, like, that feeling, that feeling of when you went from rank 3 to 2, or you hit a new ceiling.
Yeah.
That first
Dopamine
feeling
hit.
Oh, dude, like, for me, I can pinpoint that moment where I felt addicted to success in card games. That moment for me was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, amidst the Goblins and Gnomes expansion for Hearthstone, where I was playing a homebrew of Mech Mage, and I reached rank 2, which for me was the highest rank I had ever achieved in my life. Before that, I was 8. 8 was the highest, and I was proud of that.
So
And
that's a big step forward.
it was definitely a big step forward, but for me, it was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Suddenly, I'm like, kept gaining stars and gaining stars. I'm like, oh, now I'm at rank 7. Now I'm at rank 6. Now I'm at rank, like, and I kept going and going and going, and I kept chasing it. And then I'm like, what's the ceiling here? The ceiling is legend, right? Same thing as pro rank.
Yeah.
So you push that, you push that, and you push that, and it was tremendous. And like, and it's a great feeling to know that you're there. But then the worst part about that is that once you've reached that new peak, it's not about putting that achievement on a mantle and appreciating it. It's putting that achievement on a mantle and saying, I need to replace this with something better. And that is a driving force for many players, because it's not about the losses that's bringing them back. It's about the prospect of replacing those losses with better experiences and washing that bad taste out of your mouth. And that, for some, is the motivating factor.
Yeah, do you think like this ever ends? Because I feel like we keep on coming back, and we try to like put new goals in front of us, And then when, like you said, when we actually meet them, it's kind of like, okay, what's next? Like, what's the next thing?
For some, it might. It absolutely might. But look at all the best competitors in the world. Look at all the world champions. Look at the, if you want to go on a grander global scheme, look at people like Tiger Woods. Look at people like Tom Brady, who
Yeah.
have all the accolades in the world. They can retire now and be considered the greatest to ever play their respective sports. But they're still going. Tom Brady retired for like 7 minutes and then is like, yeah, you know what? I need to go back and do it again.
Yeah.
And it's not like
Yeah, but yeah, sometimes it's a bad idea. Like sometimes you come back and you should have
right.
retired. Like
But
you shouldn't have
that's true.
come back.
But that's true. But that drive brings them back. And look at players like Tailbot. Look at players like Coleman, players who have won it all. But why are they
Yeah.
still playing? Now those players are not playing now. They're not continuing to play. But you win one, you're like, why not win another? There is certainly a reward there. And part of it is, like on the other end of the coin here, if you are the best, you want to maintain the best and you want to prove to yourself that you can still be the best. And yeah, there are situations where, you might lose it, but in card games it's different because it's all mental, right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with your physical ability. It's all about how you can brain your way through these situations. And for some, it's the chase of being on top, and then that it's not about being knocked off, because eventually time will just knock you off. It'll just say like, all right, there's a new tournament, you're not in it. We're going to crown a new champion. It's not about defending your title. It's about we have to crown a new one. It gets reset. So these players, sometimes that drive is important to them. And for some players like Demorkis, who won like a major challenger and whatever, and then, after a while said, you know what, I'm content with this. I've got other things I want to do. And that's perfectly fine by them. So there's other realms that they want to find success in. But to me, it's literally about chasing that high and pushing that limit, because really in Gwent, what is the limit? Is the limit winning World Masters? Is that the
I
pinnacle?
think there's always something beyond. Like even if you win it once, you want to come back and you want
Well,
to do it again, right?
you want to win it again, but for those who can't, like there's only one of those a year. There's only one person who can win World Masters a year.
Yeah.
So for the hundreds of thousands of other people who are playing, maybe 2% of those players have aspirations to try to play ultra competitive and maybe push the tempo to become a pro. Yeah. So still, for a lot of people, the motivation is the top of the mountain. But for others, their motivation is just personal growth and personal, attaining a new personal record or a new personal high.
Yeah, I feel like for the majority of people that play card games, I think that, I mean, some of them like the aspect of playing and getting better, and some of them I feel like they only want to play in order for them to be winning. Like if they're not winning, they're not having fun. They're not, and I feel like it's something that, is detrimental to like the whole experience, right? Because if you're only focused on winning and winning with the best decks and like only focusing on that, then whenever you have some unfortunate things happening or you have a losing streak, people just get tilted and they stop, and that's why you get those people like disconnecting from Gwent. Like they think like they have the super awesome deck and that they're gonna destroy you, and then they lose. Like I was surprised because I lost against Mill like yesterday, and that got me tilted because I've always been saying like I never lose against Mill, but then I was like, okay, if I maybe played more into round two, like if I won round one and then played into round two, I like the thing would be different. I shouldn't have passed so early in round one. So, I mean, I took something from it, and I feel like I will go back and I'll be playing and playing and playing, especially now that I have some more free time. But I feel like, I'll get to a point once again where I'm falling behind and I will have this feeling of, oh man, what do I do now? Do I really want to come back? Do I want to continue? And then even a day passes or something and I'm like, yeah, I want to continue. I want to keep on doing it. And I feel like it's just us trying to get these short dopamine hits, but at the other hand, I kind of feel like any card game player just wants to be competitive. Like you love the competitiveness of the whole thing. Like you don't want, like you wouldn't be doing this if you didn't like going against someone else and thinking like, haha, I got you, opponent. Or when your opponent gets you, like, oh, that mother beep.
Yeah.
Like how did he freaking win against me, right?
Right. Well, I mean, you want you kind of want a little bit of validation that your efforts are
Yeah.
being rewarded, that your skill set is improving. People want to know that their efforts are not in vain, so to speak. So like the thing about it is that, you know, there's too much onus, or so there's too much weight put on just the fact that there's this like objective number that you can look at, this objective statistic of wins and losses, and that is the only way to measure it. And those who only find joy in winning, I find perhaps maybe are the ones who are really boiling down success into these kinds of absolutes. If did you win, that's a success. If did you lose, that's not a success. And
Yeah.
you know what? And like for some, that's perfectly fine, and that's how you want to approach it. But then you're kind of losing the story behind the loss, and perhaps it's a matter of like, oh damn, like okay, like I played this differently. I had a slightly better result. Now I'm kind of, you know, having a better time. Or there are, in certain cases, decks that just beat the hell out of other decks. It's just it's a counter
Yeah.
to a particular thing. But if you're walking into a match and, like, for instance, if I'm gonna roll this back, one of the most lopsided matchups in any card game that I've ever seen was Control Warrior versus Freeze Mage. Like way back when, where Freeze
Yeah.
Mage's whole idea was to OTK the opponent, and just, but the problem was is that Control Warrior would just stack armor like crazy, and there was no way to do it. And that mage list didn't have enough threats to compete it. It was literally a 90-10 outcome where your only out as a mage was you needed to curve perfectly and be aggressive, and that wasn't going to happen. So that to me, now the difference was, you know, for some people would just, as the mage player who has a 90% disadvantage, they'd walk into that and have a terrible time. But for me, walking into that, because I played Freeze Mage, I would walk into that matchup, play it out anyways to try to different things to see if there was any other way. Do I be ultra aggressive? Do I play very slow? And eventually you find what the best options are, that maybe you've turned a 90-10 into a 75-25, and suddenly you're like, okay, I've just more than doubled my prospects of winning this. And that to me is a successful experience. But for some, the only way to measure an experience as successful or not, and thus tying in your joy to success or failure, is by winning and losing. So, and you know, for some that's fine, but for me, I find that would be a terrible experience if I can only equate winning to joy and losing to everything else. You know, like if my joy is only tethered to winning a match, like think about it. Like I would be unhappy just as much as I'm happy, and that doesn't make for a good experience. You know, if my career win rate is like 55% or, you know, 60%, then in that case, you're like, is this sustainable to have this kind of mentality where I'm unhappy and distraught 40% of my game time? That is not a pleasant experience. If someone told me like, here, play this game, you're going to hate it 40% of the time, I'd be like, I ain't playing that game. Like, no. But for some, that's the case. They hate play the game. They like go in there wanting to be like angry and salty and aggressive against it, and well, but
Well,
I
that's
get
not good. Like long term, that's not good. Like,
no, it's not good. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your mentality. It's not good for, you know, like if you're a streamer and you're just constantly being angry. Like some people want to live within that, you know, that little spiral of like saltiness, and that's fine. But like, I find that when I do catch myself, and I'm not immune to it. I get salty at times too, and I do get a little bit tilted at certain losses. But at the end of the day, I understand that I'm not a pro. I'm not trying to win tournaments, and that's kind of part and parcel of how I cope with it, is understanding my expectations with these games and understanding as well that there are positives to be had out of
Yeah.
negative results.
Yeah, I feel like it bleeds into anything we do in life. I'll give you a good example. It's something that we are currently trying to teach my daughter, which is she's 7, and she feels like if you don't get at least like first place, that means it wasn't worth it because you lost. And we're trying to like teach her that it doesn't matter like if you get first, second, or third, especially in like sports or any other achievements. What matters if you had fun, if you learned something, if you enjoyed it, if you like maybe beat any personal goal. I had this like same discussion with her when it comes to like running. Like I for example every year run a marathon. I also do like other runs, and she's always asking me, well, how did you go, like which place did you get? I'm like, place 100 and something out of 300 and something, and I'm like, I'm happy with it because I beat my like personal time. But you didn't get like gold medal or anything like that. I'm like, well, I'm not doing this for the gold medal. I'm trying to do this for something else. And she like last week she was over and she was playing with a friend, and she's like, how do you feel like after losing? You got second place. And I'm like, what? Second place is good. And her friend is like, oh, it was fine. Second place is good. I'm happy with it. And she has a mentality that it's sometimes fine not to be on top of the podium, but for my daughter, like not being number one is considered that it wasn't worth it. Like you're either in it for the win, or you're in it, or it doesn't make sense. So what we're trying to teach her is like, it doesn't matter if you don't have to be constantly winning, and you shouldn't be participating in something for the fact of winning. And I feel also like coming back to card games, I feel that when it comes to Gwent, I feel like there is more pressure maybe on me to perform, because people will always judge me whenever I'm streaming the game, like based on which rank I am. And maybe when, a couple years ago, that would like get to my head, and I'll be like, people saying, oh, you get the same thing. Oh, you're not a good caster because you're not, top, I don't know. Or how can be he working on Gwent like when he's not in pro rank, right? So, but I'm already too old for this type of stuff, right? It doesn't get to me. But still, sometimes like in the back of your head, you're like, I want to perform. I want to be good because I want to show them that, I have a spot here, right? And you're kind of trying to show them like, yeah, see, told you I could get here. Like, you can now put your, bad
Well,
words wherever you want them.
my success in the game is like, to me, I feel like, and I've mentioned this many times, I've always thought that my success in this game is a responsibility that I have to my job, my gig, my duty of being a responsible caster, that I need to be on top of my game, and I need to jam as many games as I possibly can, and I need to be aware of the meta and how matchups are. And the best way to learn that is to play the matchups and to play the decks and to play the games. So, ahead of a tournament that I'm casting, I'm going to do my best to be as good as I possibly can. And, ahead of the last Gwent tournament, I had 3 factions, at like I think I had 2 factions at like 2,500 MMR and another one at like 2480 or something like that. And I was working on a 4th and I ran out of time. But ultimately, to me, again, it's all about, I guess, what the goal is. And my goal is in these cases is not necessarily wins or losses, but it is about understanding particular matchups, because it has it has a direct influence over what I'm supposed to do, which is cast these matches properly, cast them with lots of insight into how they're supposed to go. So I suppose for me, again, you have to understand what your personal goal is. And for some, if it's just, I need to have as many wins as possible. So yeah, you might feel bad about losing, but people who are really distraught over their losses need to perhaps kind of take a step back and get a perspective of what their goals are. And if you're not, if you don't care about pro rank, if you don't care about, any kind of competitive outlook of your career in a particular game, wins and losses are not going to be as impactful to you as they would for somebody who is hunting to make a qualifier to get in the top 64 so they can attend one of these. I do my best to get on as high up in the ladder on pro rank as possible because I need to see more high level players playing high level decks, and I need to play against these high level players so I understand lines and strategies. So there is a consequence to me losing, which is I just don't get to see as many good players. So I really try hard to win and lose. And when I lose matches in a row, I get more upset losing matches in ranks 3-0, when I'm not in top 500 pro rank and I fall out of it. That is more annoying to me because it's just a longer road for me to get back to pro rank, because every loss is like, all right, now I got to win 2 games to get back.
Yeah.
And ultimately for me, the wins and losses don't matter in pro rank because I don't have any career aspirations to play in tournaments and qualify for any of this, these major tournaments. It's not what I want to do. I want to learn the matchups. I want to be the best, caster, analyst, whatever that I could possibly be in the game. But, do I care about wins and losses? Like, what drives me back? What drives me back is I want to learn the game. I want to continue to improve with the decks that I've made and whatnot. But for everybody has their own unique motivations, their own goals. And what I always urge people to do is to really evaluate what those goals are and then really put weight into the value of a win or a loss in each particular game. Some will sting. Obviously, you'll enjoy games that you win more. But if your goal is just to rack up W's and not learn anything, like, you need to be able to. It's just a better experience overall in games, in sports, in whatever, when you can find ways to take something out of a loss. Because most people think that as soon as you hit that loss, there's nothing to be learned. It's a negative experience. You walk away empty-handed. That's not true. That's not true. You're only walking away empty-handed because you weren't paying attention. Because there's always at least one turn where you learned something, and the difference is that if you're just looking at the finish line and getting to that finish line, then you're missing, you got to stop to smell the roses on the way. If you know that you're falling behind, if you know that you're not going to win the race, at least enjoy the scenery and take your time and get something out of it, right? So
It's funny because, like you mentioned, you kind of put sports into this, and a lot of people say that the most important part of anything, especially in endurance sports, is the process. Like the process and actually going through the training before you actually like go to the main event, let's say. And I feel like you have the same thing on ladder when you're playing. Like with every loss, you are gaining some experience. You're learning about, which decks are being played in a specific rank in this case, and you're learning how to go against them. And then when you come back, there will be matchups that, go horribly for you, but then you have the same matchup again and you're doing very well because you've played against it and you learned something. So I feel like, you should be more focused on the process and actually getting something out of it instead of just only be focusing on, I only will do this for the W, right? Because I want to win, and I want to progress. But I feel like in this case also, like the higher you get, like the progression will only come to such an extent. Like you will get to a point where you're losing and you're trying to get back at it and you're going back and forth, and you need this because without this you won't get better and you won't learn anything in order to progress further, right?
no, it's then exactly. And what people also need to just step back and appreciate is, if you're winning and winning and winning and suddenly you start losing and losing and losing, it's because you've reached a rank, or you've pushed yourself to a point where you're facing tougher challenges.
Yeah.
And you need to appreciate, those wins are going to be less easy to come by. However, they're going to mean more to work towards. And, if winning is your motivating factor, if getting that hit of dopamine because you picked up a W is your motivating factor, then your losses become more important because you need to avoid them. So you need to learn from them. And I know that I'm going to go back to this all the time. I usually do. You're not losing if you're learning. But I truly do mean it, because you do not improve. Trust me. any successes I've had in any card game have come through incredible turmoil and lots of struggles of trying things and practicing and this and that. But frankly, you know, everybody is going to lose a lot before they get great,
Yeah.
you know, and everybody's new at a point. Everybody's green at a point. Nobody picks up this game and immediately says, well, hey, I'm pro rank caliber. It takes a little bit of time and effort to get there. But it's in that process. It's in that struggle that you find those gems. You know, it's being able to keep your mind open and your eyes open to find those lessons, to find those areas where you can improve, and those margins of that, those 1% situations where, you know what, like I got dumpstered, but I found a little nugget of truth in this game that I can bank on. I found a little margin, a little bit of extra runway that I can use for the next matchup. And that's where you build off of it. You need to, trust me, they're not going to be as sweet as winning and winning easily. Because trust me, there's no better feeling than, you know, watching your, you know, playing your last card and being ahead of your opponent by like 50 points. Like there's no better feeling than that, obviously. But
unless it happens too often, then if you're winning all the time, then is it actually worth it? Like,
well, that's
if you're
another good
dominating.
question. You know, where do you find your joys if everything comes easy?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think it's like that. I'm pretty sure there's like a Twilight Zone episode where somebody like a degenerate gambler or whatever like makes a wish, and his wish is that he wishes that he would be able to win at gambling, and like he's transported like to like this fantasy land where he's in a casino. And he plays like a slot machine and he wins the jackpot and he's super thrilled. He goes to like a blackjack table and he gets a perfect blackjack and he's thrilled. He goes to a craps table, he rolls the dice, he wins, and then he's like super thrilled. Then he realizes, oh my god, I can't lose, and he loses all the joy, and it becomes his personal hell. That this degenerate gambler who only wishes that he could win all the time suddenly is only winning.
Wishes he could lose.
Yeah, and then he's like, well, there's no consequence anymore. There's nothing there. So embrace the losses, because the losses make the wins so much sweeter. But again, it's not like the losses are just these empty voids. There's wisdom to be had in them. That's where the best players find opportunity to improve. Because if you're just winning and it's easy, you're going to think that you can do no wrong. But when you're losing games, you're finding opportunities to improve, and then that's how you become a better player. You become a better player when you can pull something out of negative experiences, negative outcomes.
Yeah, or just when you're you're almost there. Like I feel like with whenever we play any CCG that we play, the moment where you're actually you're reflecting and you're able to learn from your losses is where the growth happens, right? And then you kind of feel a lot better about yourself, and then a lot better about why you're doing this. And I feel also like the good thing that you mentioned here is like you need to define for yourself, like, why are you doing this? I mean, if you're doing this only for the wins, then you'll probably get burned out very quickly. But I feel like in order to progress, you need to be learning all the time, right? So
yeah,
it's a given, right?
Well, it's definitely a given, and stubbornness and stuff like that is what basically puts up the walls that do not allow you to absorb any new knowledge. You need to come to terms with the fact that you are going to lose games, and losing games is natural. It's not a detriment to your experience on the whole. It's an opportunity, and that's how you have to approach it. And honestly, like I said, I've had this conversation with many people, and for those, some only find joy in winning, and I try to explain that there are places to enjoy the process even if you're losing, but for some they're just hardwired to believe that there's only joy to be had if you're successful. And I can't, I can only, there's some people have that hardwired in their brain, and it's hard to change that. So what can you do, right? All you can do is just hope that they win more than they lose because it's a better experience for them.
Do you sometimes feel like when going to, let's say you're not going to like a big tournament, but let's say you just, and maybe, well, maybe ladder is also a good example here. Like you're playing, but sometimes you want to play with something different instead of like the meta decks. Like you want to choose something just for the sheer fun of it. Do you have this like feeling like, okay, I won't take my best deck, I'll just take something because I just want to have fun? Or do you not ever get this?
Well, I mean, it's tough. Like sometimes if I'm laddering up, you can't you can't fall from 2 to 3 as it were. So if I've got if I rank up and I go from 2 to 1 or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
I'll play something different, because there's less consequence to losing in that regard. And to me, the consequence for losing is just that I'm further away from a higher rank. And for me, I really go hard on ladder ahead of a Gwent Open or a Challenger or whatever, because I want to play against the best players so that I can be best prepared for casting these events. But I mean, I'll play fun stuff. Part of the challenge for me as well is what, if I have a silly, stupid idea that I want to execute, I'll do it. But at the same time, I don't have the same motivation as many players do, because to me, being my motivation might be being a top 500 pro rank player, because I just don't want to do the grind back to pro rank. So, but
I get that.
being a top 200 player, it was a personal goal of mine at one point. The highest I've ever finished on ladder was 84th, and but it was in a season
Very
that didn't
nice.
matter. It was just an off season or whatever. But even then, I'm who cares? It's just a personal goal. Same as in golf. I'm not playing because I have intentions of playing in tournaments and being on the PGA Tour. I'm playing because I have personal bests that motivate me to push those limits. If my best ever is 84th, my best MMR score I think was 2554 on something or that. So in my mind, I'm I have these milestones, and part of this sometimes what's the term, motivates me. If there's a meta I like, I'll jam 500-600 games and see what happens, and go from there. But I don't, the motivating factor for me isn't becoming a top 64 player. The motivating factor for me is understanding the meta better than anyone else. That's my motivating factor. And the best way to do that is to play at the highest levels possible. But for some, what motivates me doesn't motivate them, because for them, they don't have a casting gig that they need to be on top of their game for. Their motivation is different. And I understand that. But I think that there is always a place for finding joy outside of only winning games. And once I found the worth and the value that is hidden behind that behind that loss, I enjoyed card games so much more in general. I enjoyed and was able to cope with. I became a better competitor. I became a better player, a better card player, and a better person to be around in these situations, because I was able to digest wins in a more palatable way, in a more progressive way. So but for some, that's something they need to come to terms with.
Yeah, I have the same thing. Except that I feel like I am not, obliged in any way in order to be, at the pinnacle of Gwent gameplay, in the sense that I'm not a caster, so I don't need to know the plays that happen on the super high level. I don't work on balance.
You
No
don't?
surprise here.
But what about all
No,
the Reddit
no.
questions?
Well, they think that I'm the person to ask about that, but it just shows how much the community knows about game dev. Pretty much, not very much. I was here as the face of the game, mainly because of my passion for CCGs, and that I enjoy card games, and I feel like what I need to always remind myself about is why am I here? I am here because I just enjoy this, and I've enjoyed this since I was a kid. I like playing cool, wacky decks. I like playing Scoia'tael mainly, so I will play 3 different types of decks. If I rank up to a rank, I'll start playing some weird brews and stuff like that just for the fun of it because I enjoy it. And if I win against like a hardcore awesome meta deck, I just chuckle inside like, hey, look at you. I beat you with my shitty deck. It just feels good. And I have the same thing when it comes to Magic. Like if I go to my local game store, like I said, everybody's there trying to be like super competitive and stuff like that. I will bring the deck that I've been playing for the X amount of years, and it's like a deck that it's not highly competitive, but some people play it, and it used to be somewhat better. Now it's maybe not, but I just have a lot of fun playing it. And I feel like, whenever I'm playing it, because I also have like these decks which were based on the meta rankings. Maybe they're good now, and I feel like I've also like built last year like a super good control deck that is based off of what the bests are playing. And I play that deck very rarely. One thing is like because I don't maybe know how to play optimally like 100% because I don't play it that much. That's one thing. So it's the one I don't choose, but I always choose the one which gives me the most fun because I just want to go have fun, learn something, learn more about the meta because people are playing meta decks mainly because they're performing, and yeah, having fun. And then I'll just change a couple cards for the next time I'm there just to see if they perform better. And yeah, it's like an iteration process, like going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I feel like I'm having more fun with that than like grinding and trying to be number one. Although I've learned that there are these days that I go there, or there are these days when I'm playing on ladder and that I'm just on a winning streak and it just feels good. But then when I start losing, it's okay, right? Because then I can go back and play something funny, mimi, and I'm back at, having fun and enjoying it. But yeah, I feel like also we need to take into account that sometimes you just wanna rank up just to get the endorphins from and the dopamine from that, right?
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, everybody has their own motivation, and I
Secret
never
agenda. Everybody has their own agenda.
their own secret agenda. What I'm saying, friends, is that there is definitely joys to be had when you lose a game. They're out
Yeah.
there, and they're never as good as when you win a game, sure, but you know there are certainly positives to be had out of losing experiences. It's no big deal. Yeah, man. On that note,
Perfect.
we do have a mailbag coming up, but why don't you hit us with a little sponsor sauce if we've got any?
Yes. The most important. We mentioned this today already during the Dagon rumor report, but don't forget that 983shop.com, 983shop shop, not shoop, not nothing else, shop.com has a brand new amazing Dagon rumor reporter shirt, coffee mug, and hoodie, which you can order and they can become yours. Super high, well made, awesome quality of this stuff. And more importantly, all of you at home can become Dagon Rumor reporters, which is the most important thing. And the second most important thing, or probably the first most important thing, is that if you use the code Flurza5, you'll get $5 off your order. So whatever you get at the shop, there's a lot of other stuff there too. If you can get whatever you want, you'll get $5 off your order. So highly encourage you to do so. Save up, and yeah, remember about the code. The code is very important. We don't
Damn,
get anything from it, just
we don't.
disclaimer. But
We want you to look
you
cool.
guys get $5 off. So do
Yeah,
it.
damn
Do
right.
it.
All right, friends, let's go to the mailbag.
All right, welcome back to the mailbag, or the Q&A, where we answer your questions coming through Twitter and of course Reddit. So first up, we have one straight up from Twitter from Zayat Tarek, or Zayad Neo, as his handle being on Twitter. What are your favorite vanities in the game? Music, boards, leader skins, card backs, etc. and which would you like to see more of?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I mean, it's hard not to say card backs. Card backs are great. It's basically, it's like right in your opponent's face. You know, like they're going to be staring at your card back basically almost the whole game. You don't get to see them very much, your own, but there are some brilliant card backs in this game. You know, if you compare them to some of the nicest ones out of like Hearthstone, Hearthstone card backs were they were cool, you know, like it was, I think they started the whole change your card back. It's a cool vanity and such. But ultimately, Gwent card backs are amazing. I think that I would like to see more card backs. But at the same time, I mean, leader skins are leader skins. And there's a reason why this is, well, you know, so many games out there right now, like Overwatch, like Apex Legends, all these other like Fortnites or whatever, they're free, and their entire economic model is pushed by vanities, things like leader skins, because they're so awesome to see. You know, it is a true expression of kind of how you feel. It's, some of them look really cool. You know, the Arrakis Queen with like her cool, you know, all like that neon stuff. My favorite one is the is, I call him the Christmas moose. You know, like that monster one that's all like white and snowy, and he's got the big antlers. Like, that's my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
To me, leader skins and card backs are so awesome. I mean, they also drive the economy for the most part. I think
Yeah.
that in reality, I mean, I like jamming out new leader skins is, that to me is what, you know, really for the most part motivates me to spend money or in-game cash. And I've said it, I'm like, listen, anytime that there's like some sort of cool Star Wars related thing that's like, you know, like I'm all for it. Like on my desk, right, or on my desk on my shelf right there, I'm like, I never collect coins, but they released a Millennium Falcon silver coin, and I got one of those. I'm like, I
Of
need
course.
this. I absolutely need this. I have no use for silver or silver coins. It's the first coin I ever owned in terms of like collecting. So on the shelf it goes. And why? Because I'm a sucker for Star Wars stuff. So, you know, for some leader skins, you know, we hear how many people are out there like more Triss, more this, more Yen, blah blah blah. Like, throwing leader skins on there is probably the best thing. I would love to see more of those.
Yeah. I have to agree with leader skins. I think they're my favorite. Um, we kind of actually, it's an interesting topic that we have been having internally, that because we introduced journeys and we had leader skins as a simple model first, and then you get to equip it with different things. Like you can change the head, you can change the torso, you can change the legs, you can add an aura, you can add some additional things to the character. We feel like it's very hard for us to now go back and just to have a leader skin, which is just a skin. Like let's say for example, I don't know, Guernicora has a look, and then we have something that is just a leader skin, and we just release it. I want to name anything because people will be like, "Oh my god, they're working on this," or "This is a
Yeah,
leak," or
don't say
whatever.
anything.
Yeah, yeah. Just like one character goes out without customization. We kind of feel like players might be saying that, I don't know if this is like good enough, because on the other hand, we have this awesome Alzer skin, for example, or Regis, which has 3 freaking modes on him in terms of like he can be, you know, mid transformation, full transformation in human form. Um, and I feel like we still want to do more of those, but I also feel like um, boards are important, because I feel like I tend to change boards depending on the mood, or depending on the, like, let's say the archetype that I'm playing, so it feels more lore accurate, or sometimes it's just the visuals of it. I like the daytime board that we had for one of for last year's masters, with the ghoul, kind of, that when you click on top, the ghoul kind of comes in and eats some flesh lying there. I enjoy those. So yeah, leader skins, boards, and card backs for sure. I feel like card backs are kind of like a must in card games. I feel they are the thing to go for. Although leader skins in our game make the most sense. I feel like they're most prominent, especially after Homecoming, when we had the leader actually be present on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I feel like every like MTG Arena, they have these small like pets that you have that are kind of, you know, yours and your opponents. Those are really cool, and I think that every card game is kind of like looking into having some type of avatar thing that kind of shows off your personality or shows off. Sometimes it's a vanity item that people like to have based on when they join the game. So if they join the game early, they have access to things that's, you know, newer players that are just playing right now haven't seen. They're like, oh, this is cool, I would like to have this. And then companies kind of look into that as like, oh, maybe we can monetize this and bring it back somehow, and people will buy it because it's on popular demand. And like in Gwent, we get this all the time of players coming like, I want this card back. Oh, like I had the same thing. I was streaming, and I always play with the Merchants of Ophir card back, and everybody wanted that one, and now it's on sale in the shop. So it kind of, I also feel like it, you know, it drives, uh, you know, sales based off of kind of the popularity of a given thing, and especially if it's like it was available when this expansion launched, which was a long time ago, but that you can get it now is something cool. And I like that we keep on like bringing these things back so people have an option to get them. So I would like to see more leader skins, period. Especially I feel like it would be cool to have more elves. It would be cool to have more other characters, of course. I won't say no that me, because we're doing journeys again. And actually Infinite Journeys, the first ones for Ciri and Geralt, they're coming back in May, so that's cool. But they will also feature more vanities for those when it comes to customization. So that's going to be cool. But I can already tell you, because people are asking like, "Oh, are you guys working on any new journeys?" Yes, we actually are working on a brand new journey. So it's not that, you know, but this will probably come out not this year but next year. But we have plans like going into the future, and we want to do more cool custom stuff. But we also want, you know, the older content to kind of come back. So leader skins will always be king, I would say. And yeah, I love that we brought them into journeys and gave players the option to customize them, because I feel like this is like one of the coolest aspects of Gwent when it comes to vanities.
Cool. Next question is from Static Panic asking, hello there. Hello, General Kenobi. I added that part. I was curious about the implementation process new cards or sets go through. Do you typically start by analyzing current strengths and weaknesses of cards and try to plug any holes there? Or does the process tend to be more organic, a mix of both perhaps? Thanks. Oh, well, that's a card design question. And like, I don't know. Listen, I'm not part of the card design team. I don't think you are either. But I mean, you've been there, you know, from the beginning. So maybe you have a little insight in terms of how the process goes. Because I've asked, you know, a little bit about the card design process, and I know that from what I understand, there's kind of like a discussion in a roundtable sometimes where you guys discuss ideas, and then, I mean, look, I don't know the process. I would assume that like if there's an idea that's put there, you've got like a team of people who are there to try to figure out why or how it could be broken or busted or bad.
Yeah, all briefs. I mean, everything starts with a brief, like pretty much what you want to do, and that starts in terms of like which art you want to create, or which type of unit you want to create, and or which character, because the Witcher universe is quite big. So based off of that, you first create the art, and based off of the art, you go on to creating the card. But actually, this is such a good question that I asked our designers to give their input. So I don't have the answers yet, but hopefully for next episode, I will be able to shed more light into the steps when it comes to the process of creating a card. So I will actually bring those notes with me to for the next episode. And yeah, I already inquired at this, and if you remember Milesian, he used to be part of the community, but he joined us and is working on the balance team. He will provide me with all this information, so I'll be able to go into more details about the process. But previously, how it looked like, it was pretty much yeah, it was a round table with the most important people in Gwent, kind of trying to define which direction they want to go in terms of like which characters they're missing, or what's the next theme of a big expansion or even a smaller expansion, and what they want to kind of what type of cards they want in the theme. So it starts with the brief. The artists get the brief. They create a couple of versions of a given character or card, and those are later drawn. The ones which of course have been picked from the sketches. So one is selected, and based off of that, that final one goes to designers, and they design the ability. But when it comes to how they design the ability and how it falls into the current meta, and if they look into how how the process kind of goes, I will let you probably know in the next one once I get more input.
Perfect. Oh, we can always jump back to that one.
Of course.
Beautiful.
But it's a good question. It's a very good question. I feel like it would be nice to shed a little bit more light into the whole process.
Yeah, you wrangle up all those designers that ruin everyone's lives. Apparently,
they're the best.
They are the best.
Lovely bunch.
All right, next up.
We meet with them on a weekly basis and talk balance, which is fun and it's cool. They just ask us what the community thinks. We tell them what the community thinks, and then they tell us what they think, and we kind of like we bash those two kind of points of view against each other, and we try to come to a nice conclusion. And I feel like they're listening, and they always have been. So that's the most important. All right, moving on. This one from the one Christo, very own, which we know and love. Shout out to him, first of all.
Big shout out.
Best question.
Hey, hold on a second. Christo's getting married in October.
Oh,
bam!
Congrats.
Yes, trust me, I've already lobbied for a trip to Vegas in the most debaucherous way, so that is happening for sure. We'll
awesome.
post pictures if we're allowed. But yeah, that's so. Congratulations, first of all, to Christo and his much superior fiance, Caitlin, who's an amazing human being. So, Chris, you lucky son of a bitch. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, and remember, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right?
Oh, damn right it does.
All right, what's faster? Watch Flake on the Millennium Falcon doing a Kessel run, or Pavel Burza on his bike going to pick up some ponchki at the local bakery?
That's a good question. That is a good question. So the Kessel run, for those who are unaware, is a smuggling route that goes through... basically, it's a route from Kessel. Kessel is essentially like it's like a penal colony, mining colony or something like that. But ultimately, the whole point is that you're smuggling spice, which is like spice is sort of like drugs in the Star Wars universe. You're smuggling spice, and the Kessel run is a smuggling route that goes around what's called the Maw. The Maw is like a cluster of black holes, and it's a very dangerous route. Now, famously, Han Solo is said to have done the Kessel run, which is this navigating this dangerous route, in under 12 parsecs. Now, a parsec is not a measurement of time, so it's not like, oh, he did it that quickly. It's a measurement of distance, meaning he did it in the smallest amount of distance possible, which technically means,
route.
Well, he took the short. He holds the record for the shortest route, which means that he went through closer to the center of this dangerous maw, this cluster of black holes, which is an incredibly dangerous thing to do. So that's part of his allure and his legend of Han Solo, is that it's not doing the Kessel run and having the Kessel run record is not a matter of speed. It's a matter of how daring and good you are as a pilot, how ballsy you are, because you took an incredibly dangerous route to do it and do it successfully. So, what's faster, me doing the doing the Kessel run on the Millennium Falcon? I will tell you this: I would take the safest possible route of doing the Kessel run. I would go so far away from all the danger. I'm not by any means an aggressive driver or a psycho. I don't chase. I'm not a fan of races as it is. I'm not out there to do things the fastest or whatever. I just want to do it right. That's all I am. So what's faster? Probably, yeah, absolutely you. I will definitely say that. Because first of all, if I'm on the Millennium Falcon, I'm taking my damn time and enjoying my
Oh
ride
yeah.
on the Millennium Falcon. I am not taking that mofo through the maw and trying to beat Han Solo's record of under 12 parsecs. So I'm going to say you, but you can say something different.
So you're the grandma driver, right?
Well, I guess I said, look, I don't drive like slowly, but at the same time, I'm not the type where it's like I need to constantly be changing lanes to get ahead of people. I'm not aggressive in that way. I'm the type where it's like you want to get in my lane, by all means, get in my lane. Like I'm just piling up a karma bill that will perhaps, I've been fairly safe as I've driven. So like that's kind of it for me.
Well, when it comes to me going for Ponchki, taking into account that the bakery is like 500, 400 meters away from where we're living right now
Yeah.
on a bike, that's like 5 seconds and I'm there, dude.
Okay. And
Yeah, but when it comes to speed, I love speed. I love the feeling of floating on a bike, and you get that probably around from 40 to 50 kilometers per hour on a bicycle when you're just flying. You have the tailwind behind you, and that is kind of the feeling of just floating on air and going fast. I love. I've always been into adrenaline, especially as a kid. I've always been kind of like an adrenaline junkie. I used to, do like tricks on my bike. I used to do BMX. I used to do like dirt jumping and stuff like that. So I've always loved the kind of the adrenaline aspect of it, and kind of something might go wrong and you actually making it feels really good. But I've also enjoyed speed. Like if there's someone that I when I go on my route that is like around 70 kilometers on my bike, there is always someone bound to like trying to catch up on me and race me, and I will always race them just for the fun of it without looking into traffic, red lights and stuff like that. I'm kind of more I'm more of the YOLO approach to it. So yeah.
all right. So the question should be, what's faster, Flake on doing a Kessel run or Burza doing a Ponchki run? Both of those
So
are
Ponchki run wins. Yeah.
definitely.
And if I'm hungry and maybe most of like not maybe like most of the time when I'm riding my bike, I get hungry very quickly. So because I'm burning a lot of calories, then yeah, for sure I'm the first one to the bakery. Yeah,
hello,
even
Pani
today, like
Stasha, I'm here. Yeah.
even before we started recording today, I popped out for a bike ride. I went to like one of a smaller city that is like 40 kilometers away from where we live. I went in, got a coffee and some cheesecake, and I came back. And yeah, my journey there was way faster. Plus, of course I had a tailwind pushing me there. But still, my journey there was much faster than the one me coming back home. So yeah,
Beauty.
easy.
All right, we got time for maybe like two more. So let's pick these wisely. I'm gonna group two together because I think two of them are kind of feel similar. So the first one that we're gonna group together is from Busy Dizzy, saying is a best of three mode considered? There's something like that in Legends of Runeterra, and I really like it. Like bring 3 decks and you and your opponent ban one of each, and that also is paired up. I'm going to pair it up with another question that got downvoted because Busy Dizzy got downvoted, and I said this before. If you downvote questions, those are the ones I look at.
We like them.
Love those ones. And this one is from Samir Rene. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. There's a lot of letters pushed together there. The question is, what are your thoughts on adding an optional banning stage for ranked matches? Has the devs ever considered this? And then going into a little bit about how it would work and such. But basically, it would be like, again, same question as before. You go in with like 3 decks, and one of them gets banned. Whereas like you enter it, and you're presented with the factions, and you ban one, and then you play a best of 3. And I get it. So in this case, I want to jump into this before. I have actually considered. I made a video a while ago about not necessarily a best of 3, but a It was a best of 3 with a sideboard, one deck,
Mm-hmm.
not 3 decks. But I don't mind the idea of a separate format because Magic has that. Magic's had best of 1 or best of 3. These have,
Yeah.
and best of 3, if I'm not mistaken, is the standard tournament procedure.
Yes.
Yeah, so because
Always.
again, but the difference with that is that best of 3 in Magic is because you're kind of taking into account what if somebody just gets land screwed, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the game, so you're giving each player an opportunity to lose a match purely by poor draw off the top. And it's unfortunate that that happens, but I have always been a proponent for and an advocate for multiple formats and expanding on formats, and I think that a best of 3 format in ranked can be viable, but I'll tell you why it would never succeed, and that is
Mm-hmm.
because people already complain that Gwent games take too long. If you see a
Yeah.
lot of the criticism of why people stay away from Gwent games, it's because they take too long. People are like, oh, if you want to spend 15 minutes playing a card game, then you'd play this. Well, I get it, I guess. I mean, like 15 minutes, if you're used to like 8 minute, aggro pirates or face hunters in or mono red deck wins in Magic, then yeah,
Exactly.
anything over 10 minutes feels like a waste of time. But in reality, Gwent matches are already they're longer than normal. I have no problem spending 15 minutes in playing a game if it's a really good close game. But many people just want to bust out. They want to, be efficient in their time. And if you're playing a 2 out of 3, now the way that games like Magic sort of account for this extra time in these extra games is that your losses count double and your wins count double. So like for example in Gwent, if you're playing a best of 3, you have to win 2 out of the 3 games in which case you're not gaining one puzzle piece to the face, you're gaining 2, but you're also losing 2 if you're losing. And that's how Magic sort of validates the best of 3 and the time invested is that if you win, you're progressing twice as fast. So, I think it's a cool idea, and I think it is absolutely viable, but I don't think it will succeed because players do not want to invest 40 minutes to the resolution of one matchup.
Yeah. Why do we have to agree on these things always?
Because
Yeah, I
they make
agree with
sense,
you.
maybe. I don't know.
I think it does. I mean, Gwent already itself, the way that you play it is a best of 3 format in some way, right? But the thing is that there are no sideboards, which like Magic is a good comparison because sometimes in order for you to succeed, like it might be like you mentioned, it might be you getting a land screwed or you might be flooded with lands, so you always have a chance to come back. If you drop early on your first match, especially that the decks consist of mainly like 60 cards. If you're playing the let's say standard or modern or whatever, or Pioneer, which is becoming more and more popular now. And in those, best of 3 makes sense because you can come back, or you if your opponent has some type of hate card against you, you can bring out your own hate or your other tech options that go against his or her lineup. So it's makes much more sense. While in Gwent, it's would be very hard because we don't have any sideboards, and if we did, I feel like you might be choosing some options which go straight to destroying like your opponent's deck totally. But I also agree with you that the match times in Gwent take a little bit too long. It's actually funny because we've been studying this for quite some time because we were thinking of ways to shorten the match length, but we never found like a 100% solution, which would be the best. Like we found some options that would make it better, but we never decided on okay, let's implement something to make the games go faster. I feel like they used to be a little bit maybe faster back in beta. But that was kind of, we started working on, decoupling the animations and stuff like that in order to make the process also of the match go so you can pass quicker. You don't have to wait for all the animations to finish and stuff like that. So we've been also looking into how we can maybe shorten the timer somehow, but I feel like we can't really shorten it too much because some players need a little bit more time to consider the plays that they're doing. I know there are players who tend to play super fast, and then the matches they last shorter. But there are players who like to think of different scenarios. There are players like Shinmiri who love to rope. Because I also feel like, when I'm streaming, thinking about the options or the plays, I also rope a lot more. And yeah, the matches they just like they take up too much time, and this would be probably not a mode that we could have as normal ranked, because like getting in your wins would just like still take more time than it still does for like the pro players, and I think this would be hell for them. So I like the idea, but it would work, but in a very like specific landscape, let's say.
No, that makes sense. I dig that. Yeah. Yep. Again, you know me, I'm all for new formats. So, but this one I can see why people would avoid it. But I would be very intrigued to see how it would play out. But I do like the concept.
Me too, to be honest. I think it will be interesting to kind of see it. I've always wanted also sideboards in Gwent, like back in the day, but
Yep.
I never managed to convince anybody to implement them into any. Although I feel like there were some community tournaments in which back in still like the Gwentelman days, where you were able to have like a sideboard that consisted of 3 to 5 cards or something like that, which we could kind of take into your deck and use them against your opponent.
That's it. Like, I always thought that it would be like, the video I made was basically the fact that, like, imagine a deck had, imagine your game, you had like a 12 provision sideboard, and it's like, what do you want that 12 provisions to be? Like, do you want it to just be, or like a 14 provisions, let's say, do you want it to be like do you want to put in an Irden in there? Like, that's your whole sideboard, in which case, like, it's do you want it to be,
or you can you can have like a squirrel or something that
yeah,
does some
play a squirrel,
stuff.
a purify, whatever.
Yeah.
And like,
just to tech against like the things. Some decks of course have this built in but sometimes these cards are just unusable. They're just fillers. You just mulligan them out, hoping to get something better that will just either be an engine or be something that gives you more points or something that you need in a given moment.
Now,
but these make sense as kind of the sideboard cards.
So the thing about it is that if you are implementing a sideboard, you feel like you'd have to have a best of 3, because you play the first game, you win or lose, you go to the between games 1 and 2 where you manipulate your sideboard. You slam in cards. You take them out. If you feel you need a purify or a banish, you take that out and you're fine and you're good to go, and then you play again. However, there, like, Flesh and Blood does it where you do have a sideboard, but it's only a best of 1. So how does that work? Basically, the way that Flesh and Blood does it is when you sit down across from your opponent, the only thing you show them is the hero you're playing. You say, here's the hero I'm playing. They present their hero. And then you roll to see who goes first. And based on that information of, I am playing this, I'm going first, versus them playing this, going second, you then can manipulate your deck and put cards in and out based on your 80 card total. You can play at minimum 60, and then you go from there. So then it's a best of 1, and your sideboarding cards, they factor in that regard. I think that could actually be something that Gwent does, where, you have every deck has a 15 provision sideboard, and you queue into your opponent. Your opponent shows, I'm playing Reckless Flurry, and then you have 60 seconds to bing, bang, boom, this goes in, this goes out, I'm playing against Reckless Flurry, and then you go. And whether you're correct with your assumptions or you're incorrect, you either get paid off or you don't, and then you go from there. And that would be my solution to a sideboard best of 1, would be that in that same vein of, like...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes the game more complicated, but makes sense.
Oh, it does. It absolutely does. Plus,
adds another layer.
Well, think about it this way. You go in and you're like, you see somebody queuing in with like a Rain, and you're thinking, okay, they're going to have Ryogan in the graveyard. I'm going to tech in my Squirrel. But what if they don't play Ryogan? Now your 4 provision card is kind of useless, and you've made a poor choice or something like that. Like, mind games and being able to bluff. That's why in Flesh and Blood, some of the most powerful heroes or some of the most intriguing heroes are the ones that can play 2 styles without giving away information. There's a hero called
More versatile.
Yeah, there's a hero called Lexi, and she's like an archer, but she can play both control or she can play aggro, and you have no idea what she's playing
Nice.
because all you see is the hero. But as soon as you make all your sideboard choices, then she reveals her equipment and her weapon, and you're like, oh, she's controller. Oh, she's aggro. I read this wrong, and then you get punished. So,
That reminds me, you need to teach me the game.
I will teach you the game. That is a guarantee. I know that I mentioned it, but like legit, I'm all for it, and that's the
We just
plan.
need to find the time. We need to find the time because I'm actually interested. I think it will broaden my horizons.
Oh, it's an excellent game. All right, last one, Mr. Pavel Burza.
Which one to choose from, to be honest, because you kind of jumped the.
I went to the bottom because these two I figured
Yeah.
needed to, and plus they were kind of similar.
So there is a question that we kind of touched upon here by Javand Beer. What will be the best way to support the game monetarily moving forward without new journeys? I have completed them all and have more cosmetics and resources than I can use. Journeys felt like a worthwhile investment in the game, but I'm not sure how I can support the game moving forward. So the best way to support it for sure is esports. We have these esports bundles that contribute to 50% of the prize pool. So I would say that. Bear in mind that journeys that will be coming back, they will have new quests and they will have new fantasies, which you will be able to obtain. But you're not really supporting us in any way because you've already purchased these journeys, so you'll be able to go back to them, and there's no additional investment required from you here. So I would just focus on all the bundles that we have and all the cool stuff that will be coming out. There will be some stuff this year if you want to drop money on them. So worry not. There will be a place to do so. And also, if not, like I said, we're also working on some new stuff which will be coming out later, most likely next year. So hold on tight to your money. There will be ways to spend it for sure.
I think the name is Java and beer, so like coffee and beer.
Java and beers. Yeah, that makes sense.
I could be wrong, but there you go.
Yeah, it makes sense now.
You know what? All right, that was quick, and I
Depends
have
how you
nothing to
read
add there. So let's go. Let's just get the last one in. Why not? This one's from El Zap saying, talked a little bit about card games, other card games last time. Oh, we talk about other card games I think every time.
All the time.
All the time. It's a card game podcast.
Yeah.
Gwent is just the overall.
Gwent is our home. Gwent is here, home.
Yes.
But
we do travel abroad.
We do travel abroad, yeah.
Are there plans to copy a few other things from games like better daily quests, more game modes, stuff like that? If I compare Gwent to Legends of Runeterra directly, while Gwent is a better game at its core, LOR does the fluff around a lot better. So, yeah, I mean, this is where comparing Gwent to other card games, I think, is totally legit. Because a lot of people compare Gwent to other card games from a gameplay perspective, and I feel like Gwent from a gameplay perspective is a completely different beast. So I find that's a very difficult comparison to make. However, if you're talking about it from just like an experience and a mode situation, I have never been shy to say that Gwent is immensely lacking in sort of variations of ways to play it. The seasonal mode are interesting. I find that they're different ways. I have no interest in them at all. The draft mode is the most unique way, apart from the standard game, to play it, and I find that that's lacking. Whereas most recently, I started diving back into Hearthstone, and even though I have no interest in progressing on the standard ladder, I've been playing Battlegrounds, I've been playing Mercenaries, I've been playing Arena, I've been playing Duels, I've been trying a lot of things. There's so many different fleshed out and supported modes that are quite unique in their own way, with all falling upon the fundamentals of how the game operates and the rules of the game, different interpretations of how to interact with those rules. I feel like Gwent just lacks it. The problem, though, when you're saying, copying a few things from other card games or being inspired from other card games, is that Gwent can't just lift the rule set of another card game, another mode like Battlegrounds or whatever, and implement it into Gwent because of what I stated earlier, which was that the rule set, the framework of how Gwent is played, is in another dimension of what other card games are, because there's no life total, there's no minion battles or combat, as it were, in that regard. There's no mana system, so you're really looking, you're saying like, okay, how can Monopoly emulate chess? It's like, well, they're two different games with two different rule sets and different, win conditions, etc. So it's hard to make that that equation. The one thing I will say is that they need to do something. Like Gwent needs to definitely either shore up and fix the arena mode and make that,
That's one thing for sure.
dude. Like I
That
would,
thing needs just more love.
if arena was better, I would stream arena exclusively. I am such a limited fan. I love standard. I love, constructed, but damn it, like even when arena started with the first iteration of it, I played tons of arena because I wanted to, like I even put out a challenge. Can you get 100 wins in, I don't know how many
Yeah, I
runs.
remember.
Like that whole thing. Can you get 100 wins in 10 runs or something? Or I don't know. I forgot what the number was, but and that to me was motivating. Like, okay, let's set it really high. Let's see what we can do. And people did it, and that was awesome. But that was a different, fun kind of draft mode where I don't see that now, and I don't see any other alternative other than just playing the standard mode.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, coming back once again, please bear in mind that we're still working on Project Golden Necker, which I think that will be something interesting because it's a spin-off. But I feel like it is something that a lot of players will exclusively move towards to and be playing that for their streaming experience. That's one thing. Better daily quests. I feel like it's something that we're trying to improve on. We're trying also to do events which are connected to either seasons or things that are happening within the game. So that is something that we will be doing for sure and trying to develop it. I think Journey was also a good step in the right direction when it comes to additional quests, additional vanities, and stuff like that. So that is, our version of a battle pass, let's say. And that was a step in the right direction. And I feel like there's still a lot of good ideas brewing. I don't think like we can go and copy off other games because our game is unique in some way, like Flake mentioned. And I also feel like we could be doing a little bit more on the fluff side. The one thing that always we're kind of also unhappy when it comes to internally is that we do not have enough time and capacity to work on draft more and make it eligible. I see everybody's questions and comments saying like, oh, I wish draft was more up to date, or things in it were fixed, or the packs were improved, and kind of the things you get are better. But we're working on it. I can tell you that once there's more time and there's more manpower, and there's less focus on other bigger things like Golden Necker, for example, then we'll be coming back to these for sure and working on those to improve them.
Perfect. There you go. Now, before we close the mailbag, I did promise somebody on Reddit, Durant, that I would address a slight concern, as it were, because there was I got called out for saying that I am being exceptionally negative towards people who make custom cards, and I want to address this.
I saw that comment. I thought if you're going to actually talk about it or not.
No, I will, absolutely.
Of course you will.
Dude, I'm not afraid of having these discussions, and I'll have them widely open. I'm not afraid of... Listen, if we don't answer a question that you ask, it's because we don't have time. Like, that's purely the case. We have... we always
bust with the watch, like...
Yeah, no, we're already gonna get,
we're
crucified
already gonna
for
get it. This one's too long.
It is too long already. We told, like, the the target for these episodes is like an hour 10, and we're already we blow past that all the time because we have things to say. But all right, so here's the deal. I got called out because I was told of that I was being exceptionally negative and targeting custom card creators and not and creating an environment or supporting like a negative outlook of these people and discouraging them from doing what they're doing. Now, I don't agree that I'm discouraging them from doing what they're doing. Because I've said it multiple times on this podcast that I always encourage people to be creative and to, be passionate about the game. What I do say, and what I am absolutely not backing up or walking back in any way, is that the majority of these card designs are not viable. I'm not saying that to discourage you or to poo-poo your creativity, as it were, because I applaud your creativity. I encourage it. I love it. It's great to see. But there's two things. Number one, there's constant inundation of custom cards on the subreddit. And there's a custom there's a custom Gwent subreddit that everybody just ignores. like
Yeah.
like I don't the problem is that like when I scan through Reddit like once a day for Gwent just to see like it's like catching up on headlines as it were to stay relevant, like to stay up to speed and relevant with what's going on, so I'm not like nothing's going over my head. There's constant besides the Renfrey thing, which like I get it. Like we get it.
It's an open petition.
Yeah, like it's cool. We get it. Like but I get it. Like that's the dude's identity now, and the cards that he's created, like some of them are cool and some of them are not. Like it's just, but that's the case for all of them. What I'm saying is that a lot of these cards, and there's dozens and dozens a week that get posted, a lot of them come from a position of somebody doesn't like how something is going, so they work to fix it so that it fixes their unique problem without necessarily the grander scheme of seeing how these cards will affect the rest of the meta, the rest of the factions, and everybody has a solution to a problem that they specifically have without any regards to how that ripple effect will affect everything else. And I'm not saying that, like, I get it. It's like a custom card is like having a genie in a bottle, and you're saying, I keep losing to Nilfgaard, so rub the lamp, and here's a fix. Either nerfing Nilfgaard cards to hell, or buffing the faction that you like so it'll bust up Nilfgaard or whatever. Cards, like decks, archetypes, factions have to have, strengths and weaknesses and whatever. There are some fascinating, absolutely beautiful, and brilliant cards that people design. And then for every one of those, there's 4 that are like, okay, I get it. You just hate Mill. Or, okay, I get it. You wish that this archetype that was popular 2 or 3 or 4 years ago was popular again. But how much of that is just based on like an emotional response or a very specific situation? And how much of it is just like, no, I balanced this against the other 800 cards in the game, and I think that this would be perfectly fine. And it has nothing to do with a disdain for. My disdain is just being like, okay, this is the 900th Wild Hunt rework that people have made. They're all different, and they're all, just like, that's.
I mean, if you do it for fun and for the passion of the game, do
Sure.
it, because that's awesome. But don't expect us to implement these things in order to solve your, let's say, problems.
Yes.
But if you do it out of fun and you want to have a discussion around it, that's awesome, because it's awesome community content. It always has been great. But don't use it as a way to tell us how to do design or how you feel the game should be fixed, right?
Yeah, and I know that this is not everybody, but again, the taste that's left in your mouth sometimes, and like we got that question. Didn't we get this question like last week or the week before, where somebody's like, "Hey, like, where can I get the respect I deserve for making these cards?" And like,
Yes.
that's
the person we were addressing.
That's
specifically.
Yeah. Well, but there's like
not the whole custom card community.
Yeah, but like a lot of the times these custom cards are met with like the kind of the kind of push from the community, or some of the sentiment being like, CDPR is so stupid. Why can't they make cards like this? Or like, why aren't they seeing me and hiring me and this and that? And it's like, you deserve, or I deserve to have this card. And like, there's, not saying that's everybody. It's a small portion, but like that's a lot of the noise. That's it. There's a lot of noise that comes on the heels of these kinds of things, and that's what I'm kind of like giving a reality check to, or the people like, yeah, I get it. You created a card. It's cool. But like, what do you expect it to have other than like maybe 50 upvotes? Like what entitlement is there to you as that card's creator? Do you want a medal? Do you want it on a page? Do you want it in the game? We get it. But like, that's the thing. Like, the best thing you can do is get your upvotes and walk away. Like, I don't understand the entitlement and whatnot. Like, do you want a pat on the back? Like, yeah, they're cool. They're cool. Like, there's a lot of fascinating designs, but there's a lot of them. Many of them have flaws, and it's not on CDPR. It's not on us. Or it's not on anybody to be like, okay, here's the issues with the card. So let's go back to the drawing board. Let's rework it, because in 6 months this might be in an expansion. No, that's not the case. That's not what's happening. So I'm not trying to poo-poo this. I'm just saying that there's this sort of high and mighty entitlement that comes with them sometimes, And I'm not saying that's everybody. I'm just saying that there's a 2% of it kind of has this thing. It's like, and go look at some of the card designs and the comments that are underneath it and some of the, that sentiment. And like maybe what put me over the edge was last week, the question that we got where the person was like, give us some respect and what we deserve to get our cards in the game. It's like, why? No. like your designs, some of them are very fascinating. They're very cool, but a lot of them are not. But I will never, ever, ever, ever discourage anybody from expressing their creativity and their passion for the game in that regard. I'm not. But what I'm trying to do is put a drop of reality into that recipe to say like, cool, like, but some of these are ridiculous and you need to understand that they're just not viable. And that's the point I was trying to make, because I love creativity and I love the community. And I'm pretty sure that I have a pretty decent track record of supporting the community and being positive within the community. And some may argue otherwise, but that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion.
I mean, based of your personality and stuff like that, like I think we all know that, if like in this case, it was a comment made towards someone who was felt like entitled, like they should get, the recognition and respect that they deserve for creating custom cards, which is kind of, you're a little bit maybe too full of yourself, like expecting this. But it wasn't against the whole custom card community, because we do not like appreciate or see the hard work that you put into it. And we feel like it's really cool. And more the power to you in order to do such things, because people have healthy discussions around this, and it all comes and stems from the passion for the game. And everybody loves discussing card abilities and kind of coming up with their own. And I think any card gamer does that. Flake also has like a million ideas in terms of things that would be cool for Flesh and Blood. I have a million things for MTG, but I would never push this on them and say like, when are you going to implement my ideas? Because they get millions of these, right?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, like you have to understand that posting your thing on Reddit is not a petition to the company. It's not like, that's not what that is. It's, and what makes you better than the dude who posted 5 minutes after you of another Wild Hunt card, like another Wild Hunt rework, or another soldier card or another anti-mill thing or whatever, like, like it's just that's the case, is like within that. I'm not trying to crap on that community, but that community, sometimes there are some people within it that, it's like
feel entitled too much.
it is. And like, I'll be first to say it. I think I've said it. It's like the Renfrey dude has put out some really cool stuff, but like, what's the end game here? Like, like you can tell me better.
Once Renfrey gets added to the game, like that, he'll stop. That's the end game, right?
I guess. But do you think that Renfrey being in the game or not is going to have any direct correlation to him doing this campaign of posting cards for a year and a half?
Yes and no. I mean, we always mention, whenever we're talking about the possibility of Renfrey, we always mention the guy.
Okay.
Like whenever we do internal talks.
Sure.
So
but
if he didn't do that, his petition is something there. But Renfrey, we would still probably introduce.
Okay, that's fine.
Because we have an idea for her.
That's what I'm saying. In the same regard, it's like, is me cheering in the crowd going to, affect Cole Caulfield scoring a goal for the Montreal Canadiens?
Yes, because the more people are cheering for him, he might hear this cheering, and it will,
okay, but
boost him up.
But is his goal not still to score that goal, whether I'm cheering or not?
Still is.
I guess that's fine, but like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you guys, we're gonna design a Renfrey anyways, and you've mentioned that it's gonna happen. I don't know, like these kinds of like hunger strike style petitions in my mind. I'm like, I get it. Like, it's listen.
It's passion.
It is passion, cool. And I will always.
And he's making a name for himself. He's known as the Renfrey guy.
That's great. And when Renfrey's printed, then what happens?
Well, there's gonna be another person that finds his or her own agenda.
That's it. Exactly. I'm gonna start doing post a custom card every day until a golden plant is made. That's what I'm gonna do, and we'll see what happens. So Watch for that. That's coming out. That's starting today.
Just talk to Vlad. Just talk to Vlad.
Vlad doesn't
Fast track it.
Yeah, fast track it. Trust me. I've been in the like involved with CDPR for like what 4 years since like 2018 I think officially. 2017 was Challenger, so 5 years. Yeah, I've been there for like 4.5 to 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't know any of my suggestions that have ever busted through. And
the problem with yours is that we never know if you're joking or if you're being serious. That's the one.
I'm saying elephants and circus clowns make for a great theme of a tournament. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay. You know what?
I just imagine Aridin with the clown nose.
Oh, for sure. All right. You know what? Next episode, screw it. Next episode, I'm just going to go and read off all of my suggestions, and you can tear through them. That's what we should do. I'm going to submit all the Q&A, and we're going to have the community answer it. That's what we should have.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. All right. We're like so way over time, and Mark is going to crucify us, and that's fine. But
yes. We just have to rewatch the beginning of this episode because I already forgot the topic that we wanted to.
So did I. I was thinking about that. I was like, wait, we already decided on next.
Yeah, we already have a topic, so you can't do your list.
It's recorded. We'll figure it out. No big deal.
Yeah.
All right. Wrap it up for us, Mr. Pavel Burza.
All right. Thank you all for watching as always, because it's cool to sit down with Flake and talk card games. It's always has been, always will be. And yeah, thanks to this, we get to hang out every Wednesday and do this. And so, yeah, as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for sending in your questions and topics and stuff like that. Keep on coming because, yeah, we want to keep on doing this for as long as possible.
That's right. And Pavel, I love you, man.
I love you too, man. And remember, you're not losing if you're learning.
Love it. All right. We'll see you next time on the Flurza Experience. See you later.